So we will pick up with you all effectively just outside of the Dunovich Church. It is approximately high zenith of the moon above you all. Among the things that you can see in the sky are the castle high overhead in the cliff tops. The mist still surrounds this area where much of what you can see is blocked off and blind to you by the mist. But at present, you all have this extensive green glow of marching spirits that seem to be just collecting up into the cemetery and walking through the gates, or rather walking through the fence and making their way on the edge of Barovia before they walk south. And you will see as they kind of walk around the edge of your distance over the bridge at the actual far kind of southwest of Barovia and outside of your view. As you all are outside of this house, or not house, church, what would you care to do?
Just curious, in which direction is like the castle, is the Strahd Castle?
Essentially, this northern side of the actual forest here butts up against that cliff face. So it is essentially just kind of beyond the view. So, like, you're almost in a position where you could look at the church and crane your head back some and see the castle overhead.
And about how far away is that bridge south?
I'd say that's probably about a half mile or so from you all.
You
I,
got
we talked last week about really wanting to check out this church and the procession.
I was gonna say, you guys wanted to follow that procession.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in just seeing where this procession leads.
And the church itself, where I believe that they are starting from or gathering near. I'd love to check that out as well.
Yeah, I'm also curious. I know uh, there's like a pasture that proceeds over this church. Um, are we able to see him, or is there any sign that he's there?
I think it's kind of the moment of you all really have to decide what you are going to do. Follow the actual procession of spirits or head into the church. But right now you are outside of the church. There's not somebody leading this. There's the spirits walking away from the cemetery.
So one of the when we talked to that man who was kind of a lord of the town, he told us to go meet a pastor from my Hector's best memory at the church. So I vote we check out the inside of this church and the graveyard behind it if possible.
I vote to follow the procession. What do the rest of you guys want to do?
Yeah, I'm curious to see where this procession leads.
Yeah, I'm down to keep adventuring.
And for reference, it looks like the mayor of Barovia is Ismark Kujanovich.
So I feel like I got that Sinmorn and Raymond are looking to follow the procession,
As
and
well as Ali.
and Ali. So realistically, that is one of those moments where, as far as having 5 adventurers goes, you all have the decision of the adventuring party. Are Hector and Edwin going to keep the unit as a single group, or are you all separating from them?
I'm always staying together, or was just letting everyone vote and listening to what they had to say. It seems like overruled in the vote, so that's fine.
I don't see any benefit to staying here other than maybe it'd be less noticeable if there's fewer of us sneaking after him.
All right, so let's follow the procession then.
Let me get perceptions from you all. So while you all wait these few moments to try to see when it's going to end and are having this conversation to decide whether you should follow or continue forward, you will see in those few minutes the kind of stream of spirits does indeed stop. And the last one is kind of walking away from you all to that southwestern direction. As the group decides to follow them, you can keep pace with them. They are walking at a pretty typical humanoid speed. It doesn't take you all a terrible amount of effort to keep up with them. As they eventually get to the actual road where it is crossed at the bridge, you do see that they continue to follow this dirt road along that generally westward path, and it is going to slowly meander to and fro through the woods in this area. And over the next about an hour and a half, you all will follow this group of spirits. None of them seem to be paying any attention in the least bit to you all. Before eventually, as you all are walking through, Hector is going to notice that there is a gallows that you all walk past. Everybody will notice the gallows themselves, but there is a gallows that you all will walk past right next to a split in the road where the spirits go to the left. And for some reason, you look behind you as you all pass. And as you look behind you, you are going to see an image of yourself hanging from the gallows. Um, you don't necessarily have to tell anybody as you look back and see this. There's a lot of reasons why perhaps Hector might see or might hallucinate this at this present moment. But as you do walk past this gallows, you see it. If you look away and then look back, there's nothing there. Or rather, there's still just an empty gallows there. But the procession continues on. In that moment, any reaction from Hector?
Hector pulls Ollie's cloak tight, has almost a little bit of a shiver, and continues on silently.
Whilst you all continue further and further down these roads, winding, you are going to slowly start to notice that you all are indeed walking up a long incline over the next hour or so, progressing forward and forward. Um, People with survival as a proficiency would have a pretty solid understanding. You're now starting to walk a little bit more of a northward direction. You can see that the moon is probably at about 45 degrees, or no, probably like 60 degrees as it is beginning to set. A few hours have progressed by, and as you continue to follow forward, you will eventually come to another bridge that the spirits are walking over. This one is a far nicer construction built of stone, and as you cross over the bridge itself, you will see that the sound of the river, while it felt normal and the same as the river you passed over before, is actually of a river that is many hundreds of feet below you. And it's the crashing of the water so far away that makes it trickle and sound as if it were just a stream nearby you. And as you all look down, the actual supports of this bridge extend many hundreds of feet at different points to different parts of this cliff face that the river has cut through this gorge. And the stone construction is not crude. It is beautiful, skilled, and has aged incredibly well for how long some of it must be, with like the lichen and the things that have started to grow over it. But as you all step beyond the bridge, you're going to once again have a view of this castle unimpeded by the forest, and off to your now like northeast, almost eastward of where you are, and probably only a few hundred feet above you, but still about a mile or so away from you. And the procession continues on to the north of you, meandering a little bit to the west before it seems to be turning towards the castle. Continues
Okay.
on.
When we passed over the bridge, was it possible just to see if there was any like signage or any like designation of like who built the bridge, or where the bridge leads to, or like that road leads to?
Looking around, there is in no particular actual signage or anything to tell you at that point.
Okay.
Are you all otherwise continuing to follow the procession from here?
My only question was, would it be possible to reveal the map so you can kind of see how this road is leading towards the castle?
At present, I would say you can have the map to know where the castle is in relation to Barovia, but I'm going to keep it blacked out still. So I think you guys are already on that map anyways. But part of it is at present you all are just following this. Nobody has time to like try to use cartographer skills to draw it out. And you all don't really have a map of this region.
Is that the Lord's castle? Hector asked. This one Yanovich told us so much about.
Oh yes, the master. I believe this is the same person that they said may came after us and has come after all these other far travelers. Perhaps all these people are enslaved to some kind of spell or evil magic that he is casting.
They're probably all buried in that graveyard that we passed.
About how far away are we from the castle?
You can probably estimate you're probably still about a mile or miles away from it.
What do you all think? I'm kind of trepidatious about going all the way to this castle, knowing this is the man that may be trying to kill us or has been trying to kill us. I'm not quite sure if, I don't know, what do you all think about trying to see if we can find out more information or see this palace, or would you rather head back? It's getting pretty late.
We just got out of that cursed house after who knows how many days, hours.
Is the procession still going or no?
Yeah, if you all stop to talk, the procession is still continuing forward, and they're still kind of going like northward, and maybe the first few souls are starting to turn to the east and walking almost directly towards the castle at that point.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to go towards the castle yet either.
Simor and Edwin, any thoughts before we decide?
No, I'm happy to go wherever the wind takes us. I'm just here for the adventure and cash.
I feel, even though we're out of the mists and out of the house, part of me thinks that this is somewhat the illusion of choice. But I think we could definitely do a little bit more reconnaissance in the town. We know where the castle is. We know the path to get there now, so we can head back this way whenever we choose.
Yeah, I'm agreed with that, Edwin. Seems at this point we know that the master has something to do with these far travelers and that this procession somehow feeds into his castle and possibly this magic that he casts over this land.
I'd be curious if the church or graveyard gives us any clues before we rush into some other traps and an unknown master. I don't know if he'll be a nice be friendly to guess.
Perhaps in the
Let me have
morning we
everybody.
can.
Let me have everybody do a perception check here.
Perhaps in the morning we can see if we can meet up with the priest and talk to him about this procession and happen to see if he knows anything about it.
Sinmorn, as everyone is stopping to have this discussion here, you're going to notice that the point where these spirits seem to be turning has a few different curious things to you. One of which is a very similar structure that you're able to make out almost that same glow from the green across these knights that seem to stand far too tall for how far away it is, but giving you a pretty similar recollection to the gates where you all first walked into this land. And the second thing that is going to kind of jump out to you, Sinmorn, is that there is a black carriage that is drawn by a black horse, and it is heading in your direction.
You wish to hide from the road, Hector says, after Sinmord points out the carriage.
Yeah, let's pull off, y'all.
Yeah, we should run to the forest and hide. I agree with that.
Hide on the edge and look at this carriage closely as it goes past us.
Do we roll for stealth?
So you all are on the actual bridge, basically, over the gorge. If you would like, you can, on some level, like, lower yourselves into this gorge and try to hold onto a cliff's edge. You can try to make your way for the forest that is back on the other side of the bridge. But on some level, you all have like walked into a clearing here as you got to this bridge. It's this bridge on top of a cliff.
I'd say meet at the end of the bridge.
Can you say that again?
I'd say we go to the far end of the bridge. If we have to meet someone, if Hector says we wish to meet this carriage or this rider, whoever it be, I'd rather meet them at the edge of the bridge in the forest than in the middle exposed.
I'd agree with that. There's nowhere to really run or avoid if we're trying to get out of the way. Not only that, but the sound of the carriage or the description of the carriage given reminds me of what Ismark was telling us about this master's carriage.
The party proceed to the end of the bridge.
Yep. So you all just want to cross back over and kind of make your way into the edge of the forest and try to see what the carriage does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody roll stealth here. So as the carriage comes to the area where you all left this road and have kind of fallen into the forest, the carriage is going to come to a stop. You're going to see a pale white figure who is a tall man, seems to have a pretty long black hair that extends down past his shoulders, more or less dressed in rather dark drab clothing, though it is nice and fine. You can tell it's also weathered with the ages. Um, Looking over things, most people who have a little bit of experience with elves would pretty quickly recognize this figure as being rather elvish in a lot of their actual look, and albeit like a little bit off as well. Some things don't necessarily connect to what you understand as elvish. Um, but as he kind of comes to this point, stops the carriage, and he's just going to look around for a moment. Lord Strahd van Zarovich would welcome you to dinner. If you so desire to see his castle, come, join us, and meet the lord that you must bow to. He will be waiting. It does not do well to come into a man's house and ignore his summons. And let me get a perception check from everybody. Ali and Hector, as he starts to spin the carriage around and starts to run back, get the horse back moving back over the bridge, you're going to see as he drops a little piece of envelope, a little piece of parchment, and Ali, you'll see like a little red seal kind of on the top part of the parchment as it like flutters down right in the center of this path that you all were walking on, and he will leave this area.
It looks like he dropped some kind of scribe, perhaps a invitation, or maybe some kind of letter he was trying to deliver. Should we go pick it up?
Yes, it seems this lord doesn't leave us a lot of choice. He's been pushing us with the mist, and he's been pushing us here.
I'm also fearful to draw his wrath. given what he's done so far. If anything, it might be a chance for us to ask him what this procession is about. And perhaps he has something to do with Siphia's disappearance.
Dinner in a den of thieves. Let's go. Now Hector walks up to open the letter.
Within, you're just going to see a short invitation. Basically, bids you to come to dinner. If you come willingly, no one will be harmed, and you can leave to wherever your heart's desire, and no one will be harmed.
Mm.
Dinner now.
Well, it seems as though he's made some kind of promise with the villagers. I remember speaking to those women back, or Debbie spoke to those women back at the tavern, and it seems as though he has some kind of accord with them. So perhaps we can come to a similar accord. Better than, I think, walking away and drawing his wrath and disrespecting the man in his own dominion.
Let's press on to this cursed castle, Hector.
I'm for it. Raymond, Sinmorn, Edwin, what do you think?
Didn't help us to stall against him.
I think this is the new version of the mist. So just keep our wits about us and roll with it.
I think we press on towards the castle. About what time is it, Mara?
You all would be pretty much still in that moment where the moon is well into setting for the night. This is not going to be a place where you all know times.
Okay, cool.
All right, let's press on.
So you all can continue forward. As you get closer to the point where Sinmorn noticed the carriage, you will once again have a view of those tall stone knights who stand guard over the gate. This gate is looking to the northwest, and you can see that there is a forest beyond the gate itself. But other than that, it seems to be the same general construction. Perhaps not all the damage is the same, making at least somewhat clear that you found another of these gates, and it's not some illusion of the same gate.
Can you repeat
But
this?
what were you thinking there?
Never mind.
So, as you all kind of move past these knights who are watching over this gate, and start to head up this actual hill, slowly making your way higher and higher until the view of this castle is all that is before you. You all will see where I think probably at that point, I think you would have lost sight of the procession maybe in the last few minutes of your actual climb, but it seems to go through the front gates. And as you approach the castle, the outer wall will effectively still be open. Like there's not actually a shut gate ahead of you. And you all are essentially walking into this first courtyard, and straight ahead of you, you will see as there is a opening into the actual front of the castle itself and the central keep. To the south of you, there is a gate that cuts off part of the courtyard. That is that southern like walkway across it that kind of leads between the embankments. That's the wrong word. And the keep itself, and it has a similar feature to the north that is actually cutting off the same way. This measuring inside of this is not set right now. This is just a like map thrown together. This is a massive central courtyard inside of this area, and as you all are coming in here, you will see that the doors into the central keep of the castle remain open as well.
In what state is the castle? Is it still pristine? Is it kind of broken down like some of those statues that we saw at the when we originally entered into Barovia?
Looking over the castle, you'll see there's certainly signs of age to it. The castle is not pristine, but it's also not necessarily broken down. But there's definitely signs of the age to this thing.
Hector looks to see, is there anyone keeping watch or welcoming, or is it simply an open door and nothingness?
At present, if you all are walking in through those main gates and into the actual uh, central part of the keep, you still see no one. Um, until you enter beyond that like marble room, you still see no one.
I'm getting a bad feeling about this. What kind of man has a castle and has no guardsmen? There's something not right about that. Very strange.
A man or a lord with no fear of anyone or anything.
Then that must be a man we must fear. It says here in this note that he is the only one that can release us from this land. Wonder what that means. Has he trapped us here with some kind of magic, or perhaps it's only through his will alone that we stay here?
It seems we've been at his mercy since we've arrived, starting with the mist, passing those statues.
Just out of curiosity, knowing that all these spirits were kind of coming into this this castle, I want to see if I can actually detect a portal. If a portal to the ethereal realm might be somewhere within um, this castle.
What kind of range are you looking at with that?
1 mile.
And what is that from you?
That's going to be detect portal. It comes as in my new subclass. What's it called? Yeah. Give me 1 second.
I'm already reading it.
Hector brings up, I can cast divine sense as well to detect good and evil creatures.
I would say no. You do not detect anything.
Wherever those spirits are going, it doesn't seem like they're passing on into the next life.
Hector slowly starts walking towards the doors. Come, I guess. Keep close. Keep your wits about you. Be ready to draw your swords. I feel the Lord might toy with us first before he tries to attack us.
Does everybody agree that you are at very least inside of the courtyard of the castle?
I'd say so for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is everybody following into the gates, into the doors?
Yes.
Yes.
So you all can place yourselves into that black and white, like marbled room. So as you all start to walk into this, as Hector's first foot falls onto the marble, the doors in front of you are going to swing open, revealing a long hall in front of you with four tall pillars that extend up about 60 or 70 feet into the air above. And there will be a single woman standing in a red gown, and she's looking off to the east into open doors of a hallway that continues on beyond your view. And as the doors swing open, she'll turn around and look to you all. Oh, dear sweet me, we have more guests, and you've just missed the procession. That's so sad for you. And she's just going to throw her hands up to her mouth as she greets you with that little bit of surprise before she's going to run forward, holding both of her hands out to the first of you, preparing to shake your hand. And she's going to say to Hector, probably first, I am Anastraya. It's a pleasure to meet you. What is your name? And she's almost too excited to actually wait for your name before she's shaking Edwin's hand. Anastraya, what's your name? And she's moving on to Raymond, and she's just so excited before. Oh, dear me. I am so sorry. What was your name? And she'll turn back to Hector, kind of slowing herself, and you can see she's extremely excited to see all of you.
So Hector pulls out the invitation. My name is Hector. We are, weary travelers in this world who have been invited by the master of this castle, and he presents the invitation to her.
How wonderful. Strahd will be so pleased to hear that you've come. Ooh, a dinner party. What will I wear? And she'll kind of continue on getting everybody's names from you all.
I'll just take her hand and just say, Ali, it's a pleasure to meet you on Estrella. And then, as I'm shaking her hand and everything like that, I just kind of look over her and see if there's anything different that I notice about her in terms of like her skin or anything like that.
She is cold. Her flesh is pasty white. This person is dead. Very clearly dead.
And I just continue to smile and say, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you. Thank you for such a warm welcome.
I didn't know that we were going to be having guests. Well, you are welcome to join us. And, dear me, music. You should come to the music room. Maybe we'll, yes, to the music room. You can follow me this way.
As she turns, Hector looks to see are there injuries on her kind of dead face and body, or is it just pale and what does her face look like? Is it rotting away?
Roll a perception check. Uh, Looks a lot like maybe a 23-year-old woman who has been preserved and is laid to rest for an awake. But injuries, none in particular. Signs of rotting, none at all. And she will lead you all to the south. And when she goes to open the doors to the west side of this room, you all will hear as a pipe organ starts to play and is clearly coming from within these halls.
Who is doing that magnificent playing?
It would seem that the Lord was prepared for you after all. And she's going to approach the door, and as she reaches out with her left arm from just to the southern side of these doors, she will point you all into this open dinner hall, where at the opposite side you're going to see a tall figure with black hair sitting at the organ that takes up the entire western wall of that room. And as she reaches her arms in, she's going to bow down into her arm and into the room, like with her front torso, as she introduces the Lord Strad van Zarovich. You have guests, my lord, and I believe I should be getting ready for dinner. And for a moment, he'll turn back to look over you all before he says, Anastraya, you are most welcome to step away. Prepare yourself and do tell your sisters to prepare themselves as well. I would like everyone to meet our guests. Yes, my lord. And she'll bow once again, her head almost touching, maybe not touching the ground, but her head almost coming to like even with her waist as she stands back up straight. She's going to look to you all as she waits to close the doors behind you.
Yes, thank you.
I'll nod as she walks away and just smile. And as I enter into the room, I would like to just greet Strahd with a warm welcome. Ah, you must be the Master Strahd that we've heard so much about. Thank you for your invitation. Tell us, how long have you been the master of these lands?
So again, everybody should be in that room by now. Anastraya is going to leave. He will continue to play, continuing to look off to the west, not even really paying attention to you all. You'll see this table is set for 10 to dine. Actually, my bad, 11 to dine, as there are 10 seats on the north and southern side of the table, one almost directly behind where Strahd currently sits, with the highest back chair, and you will see that there is a raven crest that kind of extends out from the chair, and the table is set with different things like meats and platters, desserts, all kinds of finery is set before you. There's many different kinds of wine that are already set out and decanting. And as he continues to play, every few moments you'll see as his head kind of like drops in a moment of like a lull in the music, and he just kind of interjects like a bit of an answer to Ali. And the first moment, maybe a minute or two after you said that, I conquered these lands for my father many of your generations ago. And he continues to play until the music comes to another bit of a lull, and he'll share, it has been 500 some years that I have been the Lord. And then he continues on with the music.
Your playing is beautiful, my lord. Such talent you have. Surprised you're not a famed musician. That's quite impressive. 500 years. You must be an elf or perhaps some kind of other um, race that I haven't heard about. These lands are so foreign.
My fame has always been in dealing death. Few things are in my skills that come so easily as destroying life. You do not need to use platitudes with me. I have brought you here for my curiosity, not yours. To hear your stories, not mine. So do share. Tell me everything.
Are you some sort of journalist or something?
In many ways, I can function as your journalist. I am a collector of things. Rahadin tells me you are following the procession.
We were watching the many spirits. Did you have a hand in their making?
In their making, no.
Ali will just kind of walk up to the table and, pull one of the chairs aside and, start serving himself a plate. I suppose if we're going to be telling stories, I'll make myself more comfortable. Pour myself a glass of wine and just start to kind of eat. And as I'm like putting all this stuff together and sit down with like my food and everything like that, just taking a glance around the room to see if there's anything that I notice out of the usual or kind of anything really about the room.
When you prepare to sit, when you like pull out your seat, you'll hear him like slow the music where he says, please seat yourselves and make yourselves comfortable. My concubines will be joining us shortly, though, if you would be so kind. They do so thoroughly enjoy to watch people eat. It would be very nice for you to wait for them.
I apologize, my lord. Do you mind if I just have some wine while we speak then?
You are more than welcome to. And just from like what you see out on the table, you have a pretty solid sense that there is a bottle of the Champagne de la Stamp on the table. There are multiple decanters with the grape mash, as well as I think at this point there's multiple decanters that have reds in them. and it's probably pretty quick to taste that it is indeed the red dragon crush.
Hector asks the Lord, this mist has been guiding us. You have so much power in these lands. Is the mist you're doing as well?
The mist and I are not unfamiliar. Is it my doing? No. Can I control it? Yes. To an extent. The mist keeps everyone here. All of us.
Ah, so you too are also controlled by this mist.
In many ways. Indeed.
So, my lord, you asked us for our own tales. I'd like to introduce. I don't think we've all introduced ourselves to Strahd yet. So I'll go ahead and just start off. My lord, I am Ali. I'm a far traveler, as you may know. I mean, we're all far travelers here, but I'm from even farther lands. I come from the sands of Zahara, which are just south of just south of Faerun, much further south, in a whole different part of the world.
That is intriguing. I believe Escher has spoken about these realms. Are there many people in your land?
Ah, yes, there are many great cities in my land. The capital city of Zahara being, of course, the most famous. There, the Caliph rules over all of the lands, but there are many other wonders within the land. It is said that Zahara is one of the oldest lands in all of the world, and that is proved by some of the more stranger things that you find in the land, such as genies and even giant trolls. Some of them even still haunt the deserts. I've seen them myself in my travels.
Roll an insight for me, Ali. You see from his body language different points where you can gather, like, when you discuss places where there's a bigger population, or actual like living creatures, you can almost see like relish in his ears as he's just enjoying the conversation about living things, especially the city. And when you bring up the caliphate and talking about Jin, he has next to no attention span as he plays louder and almost drowns you out to the music. But he'll let you go on with your conversation for quite a while before eventually you all will hear from the doors behind as they start to swing open, and you see the same tall man in black hair opening the doors. My lord, your wives are ready, and they wish to join you for dinner. And Strahd will look to you all. He'll kind of turn around from his seat, leaving the organ behind, and then raise his hand, and the organ music will continue to play as he takes his seat overlooking the table. And he'll look to you all. I would like to introduce to you my oldest of my wives, Ludmilla. And as he says this, you'll see as a a woman with dark skin, uh, very beautiful white linen dress. Oh, I can't do that. We'll press an alt. Like not linen, white like gossamer dress, kind of steps past Rahadin and into the hall, and she'll kind of look over you all and looking to each of you, taking a moment. She'll eventually catch eyes with Edwin, and she's going to move over and essentially find the closest seat to where Edwin is sitting. And she will introduce herself to Edwin first of all the different people, and she'll bowing herself to him. It's a pleasure to meet you. I am Ludmilla. And she'll reach out with her palm upturned and bowing her head a little bit towards you.
I clasp her hand and say, "Name's Edwin. Pleased to make your acquaintance."
And then from behind, Strahd will look and see. Ah, yes. This is Escher, the one I spoke to you about. He is familiar with your lands. And you'll see as a blonde-haired man, probably about 18, maybe into his 20s, is going to step into the room. And as he bows low, his eyes are going to first meet um, probably someone like Hector. No, probably Ali, looking to where the master was drawing him. Before, as he looks around the room, he's going to pretty quickly find his eyes stopping over Sinmorn, and he'll look to Sinmorn and take the closest seat that he can find to Sinmorn and sit beside, uh, where he will introduce himself in a very similar way, presenting his palm, kind of bowing his head low. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name, oh, that's a terrible accent for him. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Escher. How are you?
The pleasure is all mine. I'm doing much better now. My name is Sinmorn.
It's wonderful to meet you. And you can pretty quickly tell. And I don't have offhand what instruments that you might have on your person, but he's on some level in recognition of you having musical skills, is attracted to you and has come to your side for that.
Um,
Among them
among
being
them
that
being
he has a violin like on his person as well.
Can you say that last sentence again?
Among them that he has a violin on his person as well.
Oh, I see you have a violin there. And you see this strum? I bang it. Do you want to bang me later?
That would be most desirable. We could combine our music and make something far more enjoyable.
Meet me after dinner outside.
Perhaps the roofs. It's where I find the most wonderful muses.
Can I roll for a perception to see how sincere he is about this?
You don't have to roll for it. He's 100% into this.
Oh, okay. Great. That sounds great. I'll follow wherever you take me.
So the next one to be introduced will be Strahd. Kind of looking back, you'll see a similar red dressed young lady who's very pale white skin, and she still looks very giddy, wearing pretty much the exact same outfit. She has a little bit more jewelry on and has I believe, a gold crown on her head at this point. And she's just kind of like bouncing at the edge of the door, waiting. And Strahd will again presenting her. And you have already met my dear wife, Anastraya. She so does love these engagements. And she's just going to very quickly kind of like do her little curtsy before she's going to rush to the side of Hector and Ali and sit between the two of them. And I think she's probably just going to be kind of fawning over the two of you, almost back to that same characteristic where she's far more interested in talking with people than with listening to people. So being able to sit in between the two of you, she's in heaven right now, where she's just one hand is constantly on shoulders, backs. She's constantly like touching and feeling all over you. Um, and talking between the two of you, almost never listening, until eventually Strahd will look to the last, and you all will see as a silver, bright skull kind of is the only thing that you can see from beyond the doors. And as Strahd introduces, and this is my wife, Volenta. She's not as keen to join you all, but will be kind and enjoy your company nonetheless. And as she walks in with her skull mask, she's got a beautiful, very light gold dress that's very much worn. It has cuts all over it. It is like in shreds. And she'll take a seat essentially next to Raymond and introduce herself. But that will be the start of the dinner party as you all kind of sit and have a moment with these different characters. You will see as none of them reach for any food, any wine, and anybody who does eat, they take so much pleasure in watching you eat. There's all kinds of food to feed 15, 20 people here, and none of them do anything but basically watch and listen to your questions. Anastraya probably is the only one who's realistically talking. But as you all sit down to dinner here, what is everybody thinking?
Hector, feeling Anastraya's cold, obviously dead hand, looks around to see, are these other new entrants fully dead or something else on their skin, their bodies?
Just with a perception check, you can have a pretty similar understanding that you are probably in a room with dead creatures, and that's why they're not eating.
I'm curious to learn where Anastraya, Volanta, and the other concubines are from, if they're originally from Barovia.
Which would you ask first, and what are you asking?
Being that Volant of Anastraya is right here next to us, and she's so talkative, I just broach it as like a subject of conversation. So I say, "Oh, so Anastraya, you've learned so much about us, but I feel like I still don't know really much about you. Where are you from? Do you hail from Barovia, or are you also a far traveler?"
So through minutes of her kind of rambling through other things and kind of pushing the point here and there, you can slowly get from her just little snippets where she'll kind of like running past the question on, oh, life was so boring here in Barovia. It was nothing of any note to speak of. There were no balls. There was no time to enjoy the festivities. I was nothing more than a servant girl in Valakai. And then, minutes of trying to press for any more information, and she'll eventually kind of drop this idea that very early in her life she recognized that if she did everything to get noticed by Strahd, she might be able to climb her way out of the dirt and into the palace. And that was what she spent like all of her teenage years, were trying to make herself more beautiful and more appealing to the Lord Strahd so that he might turn her. And she's very excited and very proud to display herself, like opening her arms wide, with like her right arm just a little bit higher, palm up to the air, left arm kind of a little bit lower, kind of like pointing down towards the floor, in a very kind of like dance hall kind of manner. And she displays herself in the moment of her peak beauty, preserved forever. And she kind of just almost is admiring herself in this little dance pose as she kind of recalls the moment when Strahd chose her.
As she's making these grand gestures and moving and kind of just like posing and things like that, just with so much intent and so much focus, I'm definitely paying attention to her body. So I'll bring up that question again that Hector had originally asked: is there any kind of bruises or marks or anything like that that I notice on her body?
Her body is perfect. Other than very clearly being a dead body, there's nothing wrong with it.
And then just looking around, is in terms of any of the concubines or any of the other concubines talkative or I guess joining in conversation?
That again is more or less like Valenta is the least talkative. 100% if Raymond says something to Valenta, she'll answer. But you can kind of gather pretty quickly that she is being forced to be here and doesn't want to be here. Anastraya very clearly is the only one who wants to be here. At this point, it's pretty clear Asher only has eyes for Sinmorn and very clearly wants to be on the roof with Sinmorn. And Ludmilla is having a conversation with Edwin. Um, she's perhaps the second most talkative, but you have a pretty clear understanding from like this table that Ludmilla and Escher are both kind of like a next level of talkativeness, but Ludmilla wants to talk about interesting and important things. Escher wants to talk about like music, maybe a little bit of kind of magic, but it's just one of those things where everybody kind of varies in different ways, and if you engage them, that's more or less what you can gain the most information from.
Um, can Hector looks around and see, can he do a stealthy hand signal to Ali on his side of the table?
You can try to do a sleight of hand or a stealth check. And what are you trying to do?
As the Hector catches Ollie's eye, he puts two fingers to his neck, Hector's own neck, almost like fangs, and looks around the entire room and the entire table. Then Hector quickly goes back to eating and normal conversation.
You are indeed correct, but as I told you, you are in no dangers.
Was that Master Strahd?
That was indeed.
uh, not knowing what Hector was referring to or anything like that. I look to the Lord and I say, "Danger! Perhaps I missed something here. Uh, what are you talking about?"
Your friend believes we dine on blood of the living.
Hector, quips back. Well, you clearly do not dine on the food at this table. As he continues eating and smirking.
I already said there is no call for pretense. We can eat this food. It gives us no pleasure. It gives us no nutrients. There is no point. The bottle of the Champagne de l'Estampe could sell for hundreds of gold, and it serves me no pleasure in the least to have it touch my lips. This is for your pleasure, and we enjoy seeing your pleasure.
May I ask, my lord, why is it exactly that you have invited us here to your castle? You hardly know us. We are newcomers to your lands, and it's just kind of strange that you've invited us, a group of strangers, into your home, and allowed us to feast and give us so much such a decadent meal, and put so much forth into this meal.
It is proper, Xenia, to show travelers a warm home to lay down their head, to feed them, and for you, the traveler, to share your stories, that we might learn of the wonders of your lives.
So is Strahd sitting or standing?
He's sitting.
Okay, so I'm gonna stay sitting. I'm gonna look at him, and I'm gonna inquire about the girl we are looking for.
Can you repeat what Strahd said one last time? Sorry.
I ad-lib everything, so can I repeat it? Probably not. Um, I think he said it's good, Xenia, for a host to give a warm home and a bed to lay your head on, to feed you, and what you give in return is stories.
That sounds like a fair trade to me.
And what is Raymond asking?
I was asking about the girl we're looking for, pretty directly and bluntly, and just looking at
Gotcha.
him.
Part of what I mean is like, do you actually want to put it into words, or is that what you're going to go for? Is just I'm asking about her.
I guess I'll put it in words. So, Master, we were looking for a girl. We were sent by her mother to find her, and she's very concerned. Have you seen her? I'm going to describe the girl, but I can't remember what she looks like off the top of my head.
So the moment you describe her as having red hair, he will put up his hand, and without calling for silence, everybody who is speaking in this room will no longer be able to make any sounds. This room gets dead silent, and the description from Raymond is the only sound that is happening in this room. And you have all of his attention. And as you continue on with the description, this is most interesting. And he'll set down his hand as the noise kind of comes back to the room and the music kind of picks back up over the table. And you can see as all of the concubines are almost heads kind of down, hands in their lap. All of them are in a very coy, kind of submissive position, and none of them are responsive. As Strahd looks to you and he'll say, I was unaware that Tatiana had returned so soon. But I must admit, it is not terribly surprising to me that it would be Tatiana's return that has brought you here. There are many who are part of the procession who have experienced her in the past. And he'll look over to Ali. And the reason why many of them have been brought here in the first place was because she is kept from me. And then he'll look over to Escher. And with all of our ability, we will continually try to find a solution to keeping Tatiana close to me. And perhaps one day we will leave this place.
So, my lord, it seems as though you are also looking for the same girl, except I believe her name was not Tatiana, but Sifia. Yes, Sifia. That's what the lady of, sorry, I can't think of her name right now. Told us her name was.
No matter the name that she might have held in your world, it does not change the fact that Tatiana is always somewhere in Barovia and will always return to me and will always be taken from me. And this is like the only kind of like moment of weakness that you see as Strahd is very genuinely like mourning the loss of Tatiana.
So, Strahd, how do you know Tatiana, and what is she to you?
Many, many generations ago, I was sent by my father to conquer these lands. And as the war pushed on, and I was able to make the first stronghold on this mountain, my father came here with my mother, my brother, and my fiancée, Tatiana. And it was when I conquered these lands that she told me she had fallen for none other than my brother and would never marry me. And that day she was taken from me and lost.
So she must be the same age as you, over 500 years old. So why would someone claim that that was their daughter outside of this world, this realm?
This land is more complicated than perhaps what seems so easy. She might be who you believe she is, but we did not bring her here, which means it was always them. They always return her to me, so that I must suffer through watching her die over and over again.
Them. Who is this them you speak of, my lord?
The powers of the mist. It is very confusing to imagine the powers beyond this land.
And here we had been assuming that the master of this castle was in control of the mists.
I have much power over the mists. I can use them to bring your kind to me. Escher and I set our sights on you some time ago, and it has not been clear until you speak of Tatiana, but that is how it always seems to be. We can recognize those whose thread is so close to hers, and it makes you interesting, intriguing, and dangerous.
So may I ask you, my lord, once again, you brought us to your table tonight to hear our tales and learn of us, but how is it that we may serve you, the lord of this realm?
There are many ways that you can serve me. If any of you were so decided that your life is more important than the others, I would be more than happy to free one of you in exchange for returning Tatiana to me. But I think more interesting than any others would be to see if one of you were prepared to become the lord of these lands. And that whole last sentence was just dead eye locked on Hector.
Do you enjoy your time as Lord here, Strahd?
I have watched the love of my life die before my hands and my eyes more times than anyone should ever have to see.
And sorry to interrupt the dramatic moment, but I know that he's seeing this vision of her dying. Where exactly did he describe as he was seeing that?
Ask him.
These visions of Loth, Hector says. Where do they haunt you? In your sleep? As you walk? Or in some real in this world?
These are no visions. Every time she reincarnates, it is to come to me and to die before me. It does not stop. It cannot be avoided. There is something here that forces her death over and over again.
Have you pissed anyone off that could do this?
He kind of snickers a little bit as he looks over towards Sidmorn. In my life, there was no end to my conquests. It would be difficult to say that I had not. But it seems that Tatiana and I have been destined to live apart. But we each draw close to the other, to our own suffering ends.
Hector says, "If I became lord of these lands, would I be able to send my friends home?"
In time, perhaps all of your friends can go. If they can remain untarnished by these lands, perhaps they can all go.
Is there one even you bow to? Powerful lord of this land that you still fear?
I bow to no one.
Not even Drizlash, Hector says quickly.
I've made my bargains. Drizlash has no powers over me.
Not even the Archking himself, Osmodius.
He is without powers here.
Tell us, this place that we are in, is it a demi-plane of some sorts, or is this still part of the realms of Faerun?
Your homes are beyond you all. It would be best for yourselves to give up on finding them. Serve the master that you have before you. Bring Sophia to me, and when I have Tatiana at my side, you can choose which of you to free.
May I ask, my lord, whatever happened to your brother?
His fate was not mine. It was not to suffer for eternity.
Then how is it exactly that you came to such a fate that you do live for eternity?
Looking back towards Hector, these powers over this land, their choices, their decisions, touch all of us in time. And given enough time, some find ways to make you suffer in ways never could have imagined when the bargain was struck.
Ah, so it seems as though you have made a bargain with some power that is out there, some higher power. So then, my lord, what is it then that you would bid us as our first task as your loyal servants?
Return Sophia to me. Bring me Tatiana.
And do you have an idea of where she might be? You said that you have a keen sense for her presence and where she, yeah, of her presence.
She hides in the village of Barovia with her brother Ismark.
Ismark, I believe we just met him at the pub or at the tavern. He said he was just promoted to the position of essentially governor of Barovia. I thought that it would be you that would appoint him to such a position.
It's a very sad promotion when it requires the death of your father.
The death of his father? And how so did that come about?
It's an unfortunate thing of your kind when your heart gives out and cannot maintain the rest.
Ah, yes. Death of the old. It is unfortunate, but mortality is something that cannot be escaped.
For the weak-willed. So looking around, what are Edwin, Sinmorn, and Raymond doing at present?
Well, first off, my dude, that really sucks, and I am so sorry. Even though you have many enemies and for good reason, that still really sucks. Have you tried a seance or something?
Finding her spirit is never difficult. She's always present in this land. At times, it takes Ludmilla longer to find where she is. But in time, we always find her. She always returns.
Hector asks. She reincarnates, but you can sense her spirit. Does she have interests or whimsies or things she desires, places that she often likes to return to?
In time, she can recall Tatiana, but it is a different mind that is created with each reincarnation of her body. She always looks the same, and in a land of the dark black-haired, it is easy to see the beauty of her red auburn hair.
So I guess I'm gonna kind of just turn my head at Edwin Raymond here and see if he has anything to say.
Edwin has just had 1,000-yard stare into his cup and has just been slowly turning it back and forth this whole time. Because all this talk of seeing people that you care about die over and over again just reminds him of how his smuggling crew went down And how he has to relive that every time he goes to sleep.
When you start swirling your glass, the longer you swirl it for and the longer you stare, the more you're going to see the actual images start to take form in the actual swirl of the glass. And the more interested Ludmilla gets in it, and she just leans closer and closer to you as you continue to swirl. And perhaps for a while you might be a little bit distracted and not being able to pay attention to it. But after a certain amount of time, it's going to be more than you can really bear. That she's like leaned into you and staring into the glass and almost watching these images of like the worst moments of your life progressing before the shared vision of the two of you.
It was 100-year storm, maybe 1,000.
If you desire to live long enough to forget these, it is well beyond, well within your grasp to leave such things behind. Leaving these memories, these friends, leaving your family to the past. And the whirl in the glass is going to start to like show you visions of a future of like the two of you kind of spending like time together and almost like dancing through like flowers in the sun. And you see these different visions, and you can tell that she's like slowly casting a spell over you where it's just a potential future, and it's trying to see like what things would Edwin give up everything for? What would you betray your entire life for? What would be the
I
cost?
just push, as that's starting to happen, I just push the glass away from me and mutter, I don't dare dream that that's possible. But I also don't want to forget.
All things are possible for those who practice the finer arts.
Edwin says nothing and just kind of broods.
My lord, earlier when we were in the town, we tried to go into the mercantile, and the master, or the keeper of the mercantile, was too afraid to get near us because he said that you would perhaps go after him if he allowed us in the mercantile. I was just curious if we're really to do your bidding and move about town. We'd want to do it so unimpeded. Would it be possible to get some kind of trinket to show that you favor us as men doing your work, and so that way the villagers won't impede on anything that we might be doing?
Make a deception check.
Who says I'm trying to deceive him, though?
Because you know it was the moment you brought up the redhead that you got kicked out.
One
By
second.
now you should understand exactly what it was. I can give you this mark and trinket that you care for. It will come at great cost for you to bear it. But you may find that it is exactly what you need to accomplish the mission I have before you. So tell me, at what cost would you pay to accomplish all things that your Lord desires of you?
Well, my lord, when I began this journey, searching for this girl Cephia, back in Daggerford, I told her mother that I'd be willing to go on this adventure if she could promise me just one thing, and that is passage home back to Zahara. So, with that being said, I would like passage leaving this realm, but may get back to my own lands. And uh, I'm willing to, of course, sacrifice my life and give my services to you for such a thing.
So he'll look to Hector, to Edwin, to Sinmorn, to Raymond. Are all of you prepared to give yourselves in order that we may return Ali to his home?
I'm going to look at him and clarify what he means. Does this mean forever? Like none of us are going to go home but Ali? Or what?
I will return one of you to your home for bringing Tatiana to me.
Can we defer to pick anyone until we return Tatiana?
Then he'll look back to Ali. Your promises mean nothing if your compatriots are not prepared to give you the honor to go.
I mean, I just asked for the chance to get back home, just like any of my other compatriots would want themselves, though I do believe that they all have probably their own things they may ask for. Some of them might not even be wanting to leave this realm, as I know the deals that they made with Lady Antios had nothing to do with getting home, but rather their own personal aspirations.
Perhaps then, when you decide to slit all of their throats in their sleep and return Tatiana to me alone, you can find your way. I will return you to your lands.
All right. I'm going to look at everyone and see if they're ready to get out of here.
Let's do it to it, y'all.
I'm going to grab a bottle of this fine alcohol as we head out.
I look to Asher and say, "Do you still want to have a quick engagement, or you good to call a rain check?
I think seeing as you all motion to leave, Escher might be a little bit quicker than Strahd to the invitation that you all stay the night, and in particular to Sinmorn.
Yeah, let's just get a fresh start in the morning, y'all.
I'm fine with that. I mean, it's such a beautiful castle. I would hate to go to bed right away. Perhaps you could give us a tour of your home, my lord, or have one of your servants do so.
So at this point, Strahd will call for Rahadin, who will open the doors beyond you all. And as you see this small room beyond, uh, kind of usher you all towards this back stairwell that is off to the east. And eventually rising through the stairs, you will notice that while the three brides, Ludmilla, Anastraya, and Valenta, have left you, Escher is still walking with the group itself, and you all can progress up this central stair, walking, I believe, 3 stories up. You'll probably go about 200-300 stairs as you all climb until eventually you will come out in a um, small little corridor that looks to the west, where you will turn. You'll actually go to the end doors. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong level. One moment here. Bam. No, it's directly off of the stairs. You are going to walk out into this small little hallway. The hallway is kind of north-south directions. There's another door to the northeast, and then a double door that goes off to the west. And Escher and Rahadin will kind of bring you all into that western door. Once you are inside, everybody can kind of see that this is one of the higher levels, like one of the higher peaks of the castle. It's actually overlooking the actual roof to the west of it, and it is a large library, and it is also filled with a large collection of different musical instruments, and has, I think, 2 small couches inside of it. And as Rahadin walks you all kind of down to the south, you'll see another door on that southeastern side of the room. Well, he will bring you all into a small room that has a single large bed and a couple of small little like fluffy chairs, and opens the door brings you all inside and basically tells you this is where you can stay. And while he's doing that, Escher is going to kind of grab Sinmorn away and basically invite Sinmorn to either join him out on the actual roofs for the night, or to actually spend the night in what is his room, which is that like library of instruments just beyond this actual area.
Yeah, I'll absolutely go to your room. Let's go. So Sinmore moves to leave with Escher. Good night, guys. Catch you in the morning. See you at breakfast.
Good night. Enjoy yourself, Sinmon.
You're in control of your own safety now.
Okay, weirdos. Thanks. Gonna go have a nice time. Good night.
So at this, sorry, go ahead.
Nope, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so at this point, are we in the room alone, just with us? No, no servants or anything like that.
So as Rahadin prepares to leave you all, he will essentially instruct you that if at any point you need his assistance, you can call out his name and he will come to your aid. While the castle itself, but the castle has been asked to leave you safe for the night and for your stay. There may still be reasons that you need to call for aid before death takes you. So please, don't hesitate to call. And then he kind of like looks at you a little bit more frankly. But don't call. I don't want to come to your aid. I have better things to do. And he's going to turn around and walk away.
So I'm gonna look at everyone else. You guys see what he said? That before death. I think that only one of us can get out of here. I'm gonna pull out the bottle of alcohol and take a big swig of it and offer it to anyone else.
Hector takes a drink. This land, the powers that be, seem to be making deals. Deals of life and death, and deals that cannot be reversed.
I'll also take the bottle and just take a drink. Say, I hope death won't come for us, considering we're his only help or his only chance for getting Sifia back. Hope he understands that he'd require the assistance of all of us. Not just one of us can do it.
So Sinmorn, the more time you spend with Escher, he will definitely be kind of like romantic in the way that he talks about things. He is not necessarily romantic in the way he acts towards you. He's certainly not against it. Over time, you can definitely pick up that they have a rather open relationship between the six of them in this house. And but more to the point, like what you can quickly gather from him is the way he talks about the muses walking around on the roofs of Ravenloft, and how this is his time to kind of finally be with himself and with the music. This is where he feels at home. This is where he feels love. And let me get an insight from you. Excellent. So while you spend time with Escher, do you have any questions for him?
How long have you enjoyed an open relationship? And has there been anything that you have not tried yet?
Um, I think Escher would share with you, without an understanding of the years in particular, he's been one of the concubines for probably about 200 or so years. He's not
It's
the
not.
most recent. That's Ludmilla. Um, what were you thinking? Were you about to ask something?
No, I was just very intrigued about the aspect of an open relationship, um, and how freely they were allowed to like interact without many strict rules.
So he would be able to share with you that there is definitely a dynamic of who is doing what and when. It will almost always tend to be Strahd with the concubines. It's rarely the concubines with other concubines. Um, but you can, around this like night spending with Escher, you can understand that Ludmilla is the oldest of the concubines and really only interacts with Strahd and with Escher. But she doesn't really have any love loss for spending time with Anastraya or with Volenta. Um, Valenta is very much a child. I think she's about like 15 or 16, and is very much like essentially asexual. Valenta has next to no interest in any of the actual love. Uh, on those levels, she is a murderous bitch. And he 100% would not hide that. That she, above all other creatures in this land, likes the thrill of killing. Anastraya, pretty much open to sleep with anybody. She really, really loves where she is in life. And she is not afraid to make everybody remember that her body is preserved forever in the perfect moment of her beauty. Um, but Ludmilla and Anastraya do not get along. Um, feel like that's the full like web of their sleeping around that Escher would not be afraid to share with you. And as far as things go, he definitely would be forthright on the fact that like Strahd picks who he sleeps with in any given night. Just because Anastraya and Ludmilla hate each other doesn't mean that Strahd doesn't bring Anastraya and Ludmilla into the same bed.
Damn, that must lead to some dramatic nights. But thank you for telling me all of this. This is fascinating.
So what is the rest of the party thinking as you all are kind of situating yourselves in that bedroom?
So we're all staying the night here in this castle? Hector asked.
I'm gonna grab the bottle from Ali, take a sip, and say, "I think so. We're already here. We're missing someone. Missing Zenmorn. So I say we wait it out till the morning. I'm gonna hand the bottle to Edwin.
I take a larger swig than what people were taking before me. Disproportionate. And then I hand it off to Hector.
Hector takes another swig as Strahd brings up these deals. Just remember, some of these deals in this land are inescapable. Run if you wish, but if you do not make a decision, the decision will be made for you eventually.
Hector speaks the truth, but at the same time, must do whatever we can, like we did in the house, to survive, and also figure out what it is exactly that we're dealing with here.
So I'm gonna grab the bottle and try and take a drink, but I believe it's empty. So I'm gonna kind of spike all of the glass near the door, and I'm gonna look at everyone and say, "Well, at least we'll hear if anyone tries to come in this way." I'm gonna go find somewhere to lay down and sleep for the night.
Uh, I think Ollie will just walk around to see if there's any. Would just like to investigate the room to see if there's anything unusual or strange that I might find.
Roll a perception. Looking around, the four poster bed all looks set. It's got beautiful embellishments and things. The chairs themselves all look rather new make. None of it seems like as ancient as the castle itself. The door where was that Raymond just broke the glass in front of it, is a pretty secure like wooden door with metal banding on it. The door to the closet seems to be a slightly less like strong door, but it is still like a similar make, just not nearly as I bet had a cough, not nearly as robust. But looking over it, you guys are basically in between Escher's bedroom and a closet, and you've got stone walls all around you. Seems like a pretty secure place.
Hector, says to Ali as he's searching and looking around the room, "Just so you know what I was signaling, I feel like we had more vampires in that room than just Strahd. None of them were eating, none of them took any joy in that human food. There could be 5 or 6 vampires in this whole castle."
Vampire? What is a vampire?
They might be dead, but not quite dead. They do not eat human food. I have heard they feast on human blood, which is why I was quite uneasy. We're walking right into a lion's den.
Huh. I've never heard of such a thing before. And these vampires, do they have stories about them?
Many stories, many myths. I have not come have not come across one in my travels, but deep in the books of the priests of Kellenvor, cursed is that they cannot die, living on and on in their similar form. Their lives stretch on, and their goals get slim, their priorities change. When you live 500 years, you start to care less about humanly desires.
But surely there must be some way to kill one of these vampires. I mean, they're not gods, right?
I know not which gods rule these lands. It is certainly not Kellenvor. It is something more powerful than Lord Strahd lurks around these lands.
But is there a way to kill these vampires that you know of or that you read about?
Hmm. I'm not familiar, but I do know that Lord Strahd will be quite powerful if he's ruled this land for this long. We should probably keep searching for someone must have tried to threaten this lord before. Quiet before he hears us. Who knows what the perception he has over this castle?
Does Sinmorn have any other questions or thoughts for Escher?
What's it like living here? And what other experiences have you had with guests coming here?
He'll describe his day to day as a certain amount of working with Strahd, trying to find ways out of this land. Giving you a pretty solid understanding that Strahd cannot leave here. On some level, Strahd and him have opened portals and been able to look through at Waterdeep, but Strahd has never trusted Escher to step through. So Escher has never been allowed to actually test to see how much his work is worked, how much his work has succeeded. But Strahd has never been able to step through. And that's kind of like his suffering is built around that idea. Escher was far too young when he came here, just like you, as an adventurer, and just like some of you might one day choose, he joined Strahd in everlasting life. And his pain to bear is that he has to constantly see Waterdeep again and cannot return there. Um, as far as that goes, he'll continue on that in his time, he's seen many adventurers come before. There is no lack of far travelers who are greeted at the castle. When he came with his group, they were greeted at the castle. And at one point, when everybody was murdered, he was the last to remain and turned to live, was turned into what he is.
Sorry. Sidmorn is just sitting in awe of everything that Escher has said and is greatly enjoying her time with him.
So, what are the other four doing in the room?
Edwin offers a bit of an addition to uh, Ollie and Hector's conversation about vampires. In my smuggling days, there were rumors that one of our trading partners was secretly a vampire, but we never met him directly, so it was just a rumor. And then he tries to find a spot in the room that would feel most like sleeping in the hold of a ship.
Yeah, I'm just sitting on the couch over here by where the door is that we came in, kind of kicking my feet up, listening, trying to doze off, catch rest while I can.
Yeah, I would say that I'm fairly tired given the fact that we had so much food and alcohol that I'm just gonna sit down on one of the chairs or couch and just kind of start to fall asleep.
Theo did have one more question for the partner, but Theo's away from their laptop right now. That's okay to me bring up the question.
Gotcha. What were they thinking?
So they mentioned like turned at the end, right before they're murdered, and turned. You described that you are murdered. What does that turned mean?
That's just as much him referencing. No, that's not where you guys are. You guys are in the small room in the south.
All right, so Theo had to take the dogs out just so they can like go to the bathroom, and then texted that.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, I can answer once Theo actually gets back. You don't have to.
Okay, I am back.
Gotcha. So essentially, that's the use of turn. There is more like gave up on their quest and turned into an ally, basically saying, I give up. I'll do anything to live. That's far more what he was meaning to say. If you push it and go for it, let me get a persuasion from you. When I allowed myself to find solace in the will of Lord Strahd, there was a ceremony across many nights where my being was changed. I shed my mortal body and have been reborn in an immortal form. I will never age. I will never want for food again. This body will be mine for eternity. And the cost is that I thirst for blood at all times. I can see it flowing through your body. I can hear it in your arteries. I know each place where I could bite you and end your life in moments. Or I know places where I could feed from you for months with no harm to you. But I will always thirst. And you all are like many roofs away from where you walked out. And he'll kind of like look back in that direction. I hear their heartbeats still. You're like 300, 400 feet away from where you've left your friends behind. Two of them have already started to turn to sleep. The third is slowly getting closer.
What would you say to making me a vampire?
So you'll see in that question is like all of his confidence is kind of lost. And he kind of like drops his head in a little bit of disappointment. It is not my place to give you the gift. It would be for Lord Strahd to choose whether you are worthy.
So this quest is my chance to prove myself.
He has many wants from every far traveler who comes to this place. Most join the procession. And he's got like a little tick to his smile as he says, perhaps we few are those who survive.
Got any tips or tricks?
Do as your Lord commands of you. Do not anger him. And what treachery lies within you, be free of it before it betrays you.
Alrighty, that is good advice. So, do you want to get to the fun or go to sleep?
So as far as things go, he is perfectly happy to sleep with you on the roof, or he kind of like invites you, like if you'd like to basically be back in his actual room. But that
Actual
is where
room.
what's that?
Actual room.
So we can fade to black with the two of you enjoying each other on top of the basically large rug with the symbol of Strahd beneath you, as you all are just in the like right below that giant fire pit that's almost like a 20 by 20 fireplace.
Hell yeah.
So everybody otherwise going to sleep inside of the room?
Um,
Yeah,
two of us are going to sleep. We could keep a watch as we're in the. They say no harm will come to us, but who knows?
Edwin grabs the bottle from whichever one of you two had it last and says he'll take first watch. And,
The
and sits.
bottle is smashed against that western door.
Edwin looks a little extra grumpy and sits on the floor with his back against the wall, watching the door, and says he'll take first watch.
Let's get a couple of perceptions from you on your watch.
Is that everyone or just Edwin?
I'm
Is
assuming it's just Edwin on his watch.
is two good, or do you want another one?
Nope, that's good. So overall, you have a quiet watch. There is very little happening during this time. At some point, you will be joined by the sounds of Sinmorn and Escher just beyond the actual door to your room. If you so chose to actually look out, you would certainly see them out there, and Sinmorn is indeed not in any danger despite the screaming. But other than that, who are you going to wake up for another watch?
I think I'll rouse Hector to take the next watch.
Okay. Hector wakes up after somewhat decently refreshed and sits with his back to the bed and one of his short swords in his hand, playing with the edge of the blade.
So when you are ready, let me get two perceptions from you. And then let me get a perception from Sinmorn as well. Does Sinmorn have a preference about Little Spoon or Big Spoon?
Little spoon.
All right, so when you end up going to bed, you will be Little Spoon, and at some point in the night, you may later recognize, but Escher is not actually going to continue in cuddle through the night. He will eventually actually be leaving the room. And you will, at some point, I'm sure, kind of wake up to notice that you are essentially alone inside of this room. As far as things go for Hector on watch, all quiet. Doesn't really seem to be anything happening in the least bit. You're certainly keeping a strong watch, keeping yourself well aware, but in the long run, the castle is silent. Who would you like to wake up for the next watch?
Damn, talk about a dine and dash.
Um, Hector wakes Riemann out of his drunken slumber from his few slugs and says, Riemann, it was all quiet again. Time for you to go on watch.
Hector wakes me up. I clench my fists into a ball, wake up disoriented, kind of wondering where I am until everything sinks back in. And then I'm going to stand up and just kind of lean by the door that I'm laying next to, by the closet, looking at the door.
Sinmorn, we'll actually say that when you do notice, you kind of look out and you see that he's sat against the actual windowsill with his legs, one leg outside on the actual roof, and he's just strumming a little sitar, playing a very quiet tune, but kind of staring off into the sky.
I gently pad over and start to hum along.
And then what did we go for? We went for Raymond. When Raymond is ready, do a couple of perceptions here for me. So Raymond, you are sitting against the closet door or against the wall by the closet, looking at the door across the bed.
Yeah, just kind of stood up out of bed and decided to lean up here, standing, so I don't fall asleep.
Gotcha. So hours are going by. It's kind of hard for you to tell what time exactly it is. But as time's kind of moving by, there's going to eventually be a point where you hear a little creaking of wood, and it's coming from the closet.
So I'm going to jump back, hearing the noise coming from the closet. But naturally, I can't just ignore it. So I'm going to kind of slowly open the doors. I'm going to open the door as quietly as I can, just peeking my head around it, hiding behind the door as it opens.
So popping open the door, looking inside, you don't see anything.
All right. I'm going to shut the door, shake my head, and assume this place is really weird or I'm really tired.
So more or less just returning to watch.
Correct.
So for the rest of your time, doesn't seem to be anything else. You're kind of prepared and waiting for that same groan to happen again, and it never comes. And I think that would mean wake Ali for the last one. Edwin took the first.
Yeah, Ollie. So I'm gonna walk over, wake up Ollie. I'm gonna think it's kind of funny to shake him awake as if there's an emergency. And then, as he comes to, tell him I was just joking. But I'm gonna inform him that I heard something in the closet but didn't see anything.
As he like shakes me awake and I pop up thinking that something's awry, I definitely draw my blade and like have it at the ready and like I'm like wide awake. And then after, as soon as he told me there was nothing wrong, I was like, oh, fuck off. And just walk over to the closet and just peek inside.
You can do a perception check. Looking inside, you're able to see like a point where like dust has almost like come down from the ceiling, and whatever it was that Raymond perhaps heard seems to be what might have done this. But the room itself, it still looks just like a small little empty closet. Um, Whatever happened in that dust, it's not clear from where you are, like what would have done it. Just that that dust was not there when you first checked this closet.
So I'll just leave the door awry and just stand off just to the side of it.
Gotcha. So when you are ready, let me get some perceptions from you on your watch.
You said two?
Yep. Sinmorn, are you pretty much trying to stay awake, or are you kind of falling asleep in Escher's arms?
I am. Can I roll for perception to see if I can tell that his breathing is steady?
Give me a moment to look up whether he even breathes. But yeah, you definitely can.
I'm just gonna look for anything that would tell me that he's awake.
But you're like head resting on his chest kind of thing, like listening for signs of him being up.
Yeah. Yes. Do I notice anything?
Give me one moment. Kind of funny when they mention it on some creatures but not others. I think you would feel the actual like rise and fall of his chest. It would definitely be weird not to hear a heartbeat within his body. Um, he does continue to strum through the night regardless. But like once you actually join him, it's he basically finds a way to bring you in to like a close cuddle, but where he can like get back to playing. Um, so I think that satisfies what you were looking for there.
Yeah. So I start to fall asleep.
Gotcha. And then Ali, while you are on watch, everything's quiet. Doesn't seem to be anything of note. You said you left the actual door open to the closet. You don't hear anything from within side. in the long run, I kind of left it out, but everybody would kind of hear like the soft strumming of music from beyond, like in Escher's room. But I don't necessarily think that would surprise anyone knowing Sinmorn. And with the quick introduction to to Escher, that perhaps the two of them are not actually sleeping. So when you all are prepared, everybody, I don't think you even really need anything long rest wise, but you all can take a long rest here. Sinmorn, when you wake up, one thing that will be very quickly apparent to you, it's dark outside. There was no sunrise. You don't feel terribly rested, kind of like you stayed up, kind of fighting away sleep. But it's at best kind of like full moon level of brightness as you look outside, almost just a dull light that kind of falls across the roof of Ravenloft. And when Escher starts to feel you kind of moving around in his arms, he'll kind of usher you back into the room. And more or less at this point, I think perhaps invite you to either get dressed, to have a little bit more fun, or to breakfast.
Life is short. I'll have a bit more fun and then we can go into breakfast.
So, as the four of you inside of the bedroom are waking up, you all will rather quickly start to gather that there is company outside of the bedroom that you all are in, that the library is currently in use. But what would you all like to do as everybody starts to come to this morning?
Well, as I wake up, I realize I really have to pee. So, as I hear them out there, I just kind of frantically walk around the room, but don't want to intrude.
I actually feel like this might be chamber pot level of castle here.
Perfect. I'm going to find the chamber pot then and use that. And then after I use the chamber pot, I'm just going to kind of look around the room, see who else is awake, and see what they have going on.
I wake up or I guess I'm awake. So yeah, I mean, I feel great. I got a great night's sleep. There was no problems on my watch. I'm feeling good, but I do want to explore more of the castle. I'm interested just to kind of see what the grounds look like. I tell Raymond, perhaps we should either get someone to clean up this bottle or just kind of move it out of the way and say it was an accident or something.
I'm going to stand up and just start walking on the broken glass, knowing it's just going to make some noise and coughing loudly outside the door to let them know we are awake.
So you're just like right on the other side, like crunching the glass, like.
Exactly. Just, hey, hurry up. Come on.
Sinmorn, this doesn't seem to affect Escher in the least bit. He might actually look to you at some point and perhaps your friends would like to join us?
Absolutely not. I would not like that. We will not do that.
So when you say that, roll a perception for me. As you start to say that, the feeling of the floor beneath your body becomes light and then absent, and feels like a soft breeze is around you before you will recognize that he's basically floated with you beneath him in his grasp, and you are outside on the roofs again.
Oh, wow. We're doing it here. All right. Okay.
So the group inside, after the coughing, maybe 30 seconds later, there's silence. For all intents and purposes, that's like, oh yeah, the coughing worked. They're probably getting dressed. Let's give them a moment. And then
So as I don't hear anything out there, I'm gonna knock. I hear nothing, and then open the door and kind of walk out cautiously.
I guess, wait, I should have actually asked Sinmorn, when you notice that you are brought back out onto the roof, like, are you trying to get away and run back inside?
I'm actually kind of curious where this is gonna go, but I grip my dagger, like in my pocket. Like I have it in my pocket.
You think you have clothes on right now?
At least the cloak.
All right, so what are you doing with the dagger?
I'm just casually gripping it in my pocket as I use like my hands in my pocket to cross over my body since we're like out on the roofs.
All right, gotcha. Yeah, so you can cover yourself as you start to notice it. Um, but yeah, so when Raymond steps out after knocking, there's no one out there. You would recognize, I would say, at least most of Sinmorn's equipment and clothing still on the floor, as well as all of what you saw Escher wearing the previous night.
So seeing that and having no context, I'm gonna kind of holler back to everyone in the room and ask them what they think of this.
Oh, I have an idea. And just kind of chuckle a little bit. Come, we should leave Sinmorn and her companion to their endeavors. Are Hector and Edwin kind of coming outside into the room?
Yeah, I'm just trying to. So was Sinmorn in that room with the big bed? Like I'm very confused where we all actually were and where Sinmorn was. Out somewhere on the roof or something.
We were in this room, and they were in like the library area.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, we moving on? Where are we going?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on some level, all of their clothing is effectively strewn about in this room, around this rug.
I think for shits and giggles, I'm just gonna grab both their pants, and if we leave this room, I'm gonna walk out with them.
Just their pants, though, right?
Yeah, just their pants.
So you all can head out of the room. You've got the doorways ahead of you. What thoughts do you all have at this point?
I'm pretty on edge, especially after just an old house hearing some creaking and everything we went through at the last house we were in. I don't like this place. So I'm on edge.
It was quiet on my watch, Hector says, but in a place like this, I could never shake the feeling they probably watched us all night, either directly or supernatural means.
I would say my guard is somewhat down, just considering the fact that we had such a great meal and had a full night of sleep and nothing really happened on my watch. So I'm kind of more curious to see what we might be able to find and less cautious.
I feel like since Strahd has some quest for us, we are still useful, but I don't know how long our usefulness will last for him.
We should try to see what we might be able to find out from this place before we leave. Um, Perhaps there's information that we'll find out about Strahd and his dealings, or maybe other people that are within the town.
So are you all heading back down to the dining room?
I'm gonna holler back to Edwin, see if he's with us and on board.
Edwin is stumbling after them, remembering that rum hangovers weren't quite this rough.
I think as we walk down the stairs and everything like that, I definitely look for other rooms that we might pass before actually getting to the dining room, that I might want to just kind of peek in and see if I might be able to see what it is.
Well, then on that level, we will leave off right at this moment here. And we will pick up from this next week. Sinmorn apparently no longer having pants. And you all basically descending from the guest room. You all are officially now the lowest level group I have ever walked through Ravenloft.
Oh wow.
What was the previous record?
I think 5 or 6.
All right. How's this working for you with like the different timing of everything? You think it's going pretty smooth?
Oh, I mean, you guys immediately went off. But can't plan anything because a group never does what you're planning for. I had Barovia planned for you all. You all immediately followed the procession. So I really like introducing Strahd early on in the game. So that is perfectly acceptable by me. It's just absolutely hilarious when stuff like that happens, because it happens on a regular basis. It doesn't matter what you try to plan. It effectively serves nothing if your plan isn't super